Hey resellers, thanks so much for tuning into today's video. I hope it's super educational and informative for you today. I'd like to expose you to exactly how I take my photos and the little tips and tricks that I think you could start to utilize and implement into your own photo taking techniques to really elevate things and give them a sleek and professional look. Alright guys, today I'm going to be taking you through step by step every little detail of taking photos and a lot of the little things that maybe you've never considered. I promise you, you will learn something in today's video. Comment below and let me know what that is. If you like this video today, if you receive any information out of it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much again for watching and consider subscribing to the channel again if you feel like it's something that brings value into your reselling career. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay, so over on my Instagram, and if you're not following me there, I do have my Instagram handle in the description, but I polled the resellers that follow me there, what plagues you when it comes to taking pictures? What is the hardest part about taking listing photos for you? And you guys had some really awesome things to say. So these are just a few of the things we'll be going over in today's video. Folks talked about having difficulty knowing which angles are best, if they should use a flash or no flash. Very many people said that their biggest struggle was not having a dedicated space to take photos and having to tear down and set up that space for photography every time. So we'll be talking about some tips with that. And this I thought was a really great one. Someone said that they struggle with ensuring that they are including everything the customer wants to know about that item in 12 photos or less. Folks had a lot of questions about lighting. I'm going to give you some tips that I promise you have not heard yet in regard to lighting. And some people said their biggest struggle with photography is just getting it done, cross-posting, and a dedicated setup again with lights. So let's go through everything, you guys. The first thing we're going to talk about is your camera. You thought I was probably going to talk about setup first, but before you can even think about where you're going to take pictures, you have to think about what you're going to take photos with. I am filming this video and all of my YouTube videos on a Canon G7X Mark II. It is a super nice and intelligent camera, and I do not use it to list anything over on eBay or Poshmark. I feel like the camera settings are a little too challenging for me right now. It probably would have the capability of taking better photos than what I'm currently using, but I wonder if it would be able to take those photos in a one-step process like what I'm currently using without having to edit those photos. So currently I am using my Samsung tablet. That's right, I don't use my phone. I feel like I get much higher quality photos off of this tablet. That is the rear facing camera. The front facing camera on it, when I try to like video chat my parents, it's terrible. It looks like a gorilla drew my picture. But the rear facing camera on this thing is awesome. So my husband actually bought me this for my birthday a few years ago just because the camera was so good and I would be able to elevate my reselling game. So once again, shout out to my husband, the real MVP. Now this is a Samsung, so it is an Android. If you use iPhone, like probably 80% of the world, there are very similar settings as what I'm going to walk you through, and there are very similar apps. So you're still going to be able to utilize every bit of knowledge that I give you today. The reason I bring up the tablet though is that a lot of people think I have to have some big expensive camera before I can start taking really professional looking quality photos for eBay and Poshmark, and it's simply not true. To be honest with you, if my phone was better quality, I'd probably just use it, but I use a Note 8 and I believe it's older than my youngest child. Alright guys, let's move on to one of the #1 most requested things that I cover in this video, and that is having a dedicated setup and tear down. Now, my office, I've recently spent a long time in here trying to organize things. I'm just going to put my tablet over there since we're done talking about that for a moment. But one thing that you'll notice in my office is I don't have necessarily a dedicated photography area, short of my mannequin station. Let me just show you guys. Alright guys, so I have this dedicated corner, and my youngest son recently just helped me add these little floor tiles because I work in the basement, so this is a concrete floor and I don't want that in photos. So we added just these cheap little flooring tiles, and the wall behind it is painted white. This outlet cover is never in the photos and this door is never in the photos. So I have my mannequin on a clean white wall. This station does pretty well stay like that. I have these studio lights, this lighting set that also stays over there tucked out of the way when I'm not using it. But let me show you what I use for the majority of my listings that are not clothing. All right guys, for everything that I have that is not clothing, you see the station right here? If you follow me again on Instagram, you'll know that this is actually my shipping station. This space has to stay cleared off because I have to use it every single day to be able to ship things. This is also obviously where I stand and film videos. I hope you guys are enjoying this new interest wall here with several of my interests and interesting things for you to look at. But anyway, this shipping station, like I say, has to stay clean, so it gives me an incentive to keep this area clean for 2 reasons. Now over here on the other side of the table, these are shoes that I'm going to be drafting later today, and this is unlisted inventory. Everything underneath here is listed, but this is unlisted inventory. So swimsuits and shoes are the next things that I'm working on. This cannot creep over here. This has to stay clean for shipping and photography. This is probably only about a 4-foot section, so you don't need a ton of space. But obviously I don't want this in the background of my photos, and I would rather have a clean white background than this contact paper. So let me show you what I use. This is it. This is truly all you need. Lighting is extra obviously, but you can get away with natural lighting. This is what you need to be able to get crisp, clean photos. Cancel buying some expensive photo box from Amazon or eBay. This is what you need. Let me show you. This is a foam board that I bought from Walmart, Dollar Tree, any place. I actually buy these from the Dollar Tree more often than Walmart because they're sometimes like $2 plus at Walmart. So it's just a foam board with paper on each side, and you can tell they start to get a little worn and dirty, and this one actually needs to be replaced because the whole point is to get a crisp white background. But when you do have to replace it, it's only $1. So let's take this and let's lay it down flat. We'll lay it down flat right there. And this is still not going to give me a crisp white background. We're going to use, I'm going to show you exactly the one I use, the Elmer's Trifold Display Board. You get these at Walmart, and these are under $3. And when you open it up, here's a crisp white background. Let's see how white. Did you love it? Did you love it? All right, my camera's probably freaking out with all the white balance now. So I'm just going to take this display board, and I'm going to scoot it back as far back as I can there. And if you can't get it to stay open, then you can even add a little bit of washi tape or something to the back to keep those edges open. And I'll actually show you that now. I have a piece of washi tape here. So let's just pull off a little piece of tape. Tape it down to the table, tape it down to the back of the board. And it's gonna stay open and stay where I want it to stay. And just in case yours is being a little contrary like mine can be sometimes. All right guys, for me, this double duty station is my shipping table. For you, maybe it's your kitchen table. Maybe it is as simple as one of the bar stools in your kitchen pulled up to a well-lit window. Also in your kitchen, in your living room, wherever, someplace in your apartment, take that bar stool outside, and I will tell you, I have used this positioned on a bar stool. It works just the same. You could do this on the floor. You can do this anywhere. You can take the entire setup outside, and all you need are 2 boards, less than $5 at Walmart and the Dollar Tree. Like, you can do this. You can have really great professional looking photos. All right guys, let's talk about lighting. I want to show you the lighting that I use. Is this LS Photo Studio, I don't know. And there are inside here 4 or 5 bulbs. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that without me blinding you. You see oh, I got one burnout and it's still super bright. I'll replace that though. But these diffuse the light, these on top here. This actually came with a setup of 3, but I gave one to my dad so he could start listing over on eBay. And I was so surprised how with just this lighting and the camera on his phone, how professional his photos looked. So we're a little ways away from the backdrop here. What I'm gonna do is bring these in fairly close here, one on each side. And now you can see they're on each side, but they're not really going to illuminate the item if it's very low to the table. So the really great thing about these, the really great thing is that you can adjust these and angle this entire unit down. So I'll do that real quick. All right, guys. So I have angled each one of these lights down, and I have a fake listing item here in the middle. It is a vintage box of Legos, which is hilarious because I would never list vintage Legos. Those are all mine. I cannot source Legos because I would keep them all. Anyway, I have both my lights here, and I want to show you a trick that you probably do not know yet. So a lot of times, especially if these lights are very, very close, what people want to do is they want the light super close, and they want to stand back here and, you know, maybe zoom in real quick, zoom in real tight and get the shot. And let me show you that this is what that shot will look like. Or let me back these lights up just ever so slightly, move them over. And I'm going to go between the light source and the item. So I'm just gonna go right in between the two. You want, my light source is just right here behind me. You do not want to be behind the light source. So I have light source, camera, item. Go between the light source and the item. And let me show you something else real quickly, okay? I'm going to, so let's say this is my shot, and I'm gonna turn off one set of these lights. Do you see instantly how many shadows we have? You can see the seam back here more. That is because I turned off one source of these lights. Look, I turned off this one light. So when this light comes through, it's gonna cast shadows in this direction. So you have to have a light on each side, be it, I don't care what it is, you guys, but even if I were to move, let me show you this. Do you see how much brighter that got? Even if I were to move this light directly in front of the item, I don't think you're going to cancel out every one of the shadows. So one light source, that's as good as the photo as I'm gonna get. Two light sources, okay? So that is a huge thing when you are buying studio lights. Now, this might look like a pretty good shot, but guys, this is like a 16:9 ratio here. So that's a problem, and let's talk about why. All right, guys, I know the lighting might be strange for this part of the video, but just bear with me because I want to explain photo ratios to you. So when you open up the camera app on your phone or on your tablet, it may look something like this. Well, up here on an Android, you see it says 1:1. Let me show you, if I just went to full, this is what the item is gonna look like. And let's just take a picture real quick. You might even be tempted to turn your camera sideways and get a photo like this. All right, so if we go in the camera roll to those photos, do you see how much white space there is? Do you see how this photo is rectangular? This one is vertical or portrait, and this is landscape. Guys, that's never gonna work well. It's not gonna work well if you post items on Poshmark for sure. They're going to crop the item for you, for your failure to crop. If you go to post the items on eBay, a 1:1 ratio is preferred now. So always a 1:1 ratio is going to be what you're looking for. I'm not really sure on Mercari. Comment below if you're a Mercari lister, if they prefer a 1:1 ratio as well. But I just feel like it's so neat and polished, it's going to work well in a plethora of different options. If you list your items over on Instagram, it's going to work well for that also. Always go to 1:1 for your photos. So again, we have 3:4, 9:16, 1:1 and full. So we're gonna click 1:1 and let's go in and I'll show you what the photo looks like this time. All right, guys, we have this square photo now, but I feel like it can still be improved. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Let's go back to the camera app. Let's, first of all, here's a tip. Always make sure the lens on your camera is very, very clean. So I'm gonna wipe that clean, and I wipe it clean before each item just to ensure I didn't stick my finger on there. Nothing's worse than batch photographing all of your listings only to realize half of them have a finger smudge on them. So get in the habit of wiping that off frequently. All right, so I'm going to get very close to the item and I'm going to zoom to my preferred space here. Now, someone on Instagram asked about angles, and when you're shooting something like this, you want to ensure on this particular item, I would think the label is the most important. So whatever is most important, that's really what you want to focus on your first angle. Now, let's just see how many different angles I could photograph this in. From hovering a bit above the item to coming down low. And you guys just help me decide which one looks better. If I'm coming in low at the item, or if I'm hovering just above it. I don't know about you, but I think coming in low, this looks a lot more professional, but it can still be improved. Let's do that. Okay, so I'm going to go straight on at the item. You might be tempted to hover because, you know, save your back, right? So I'm going to come straight in at my item. I'm going to zoom. I'm going to remove as much white space around it as I can. And then look, tap the item, tap the picture, and then look at this. This bar comes up on the side that allows you to darken the photo or brighten the photo without having to do this later in another app. So my angle is perfect. I'm going to set the brightness where I would like it. All right, guys, let's see how the photo came out. So this is the finished product of zooming well, of having a well-lit space, of also adjusting the brightness in the app and having a white background. I don't believe you could get much more professional looking than this particular photo, but let's talk about a few more helpful tips that will help you along the way. All right, guys, one really important thing that I was asked about over on Instagram was, how can I ensure that in 12 photos, I'm showing everything that the buyer wants to know? Well, always keep in mind, my rule of thumb is that the buyer cannot feel your item. They cannot tangibly touch and experience your item. So try to offer that in 12 photos or less. Yes, it takes a little bit of experience. The more you photograph items, the better you will get. But I want to show you what my basic strategy is and how I photograph items. So I have a listing pulled up that I photographed. This was the super cool Versace hat that I'm asking $150 for. For this to be a $150 hat, I need to instill some confidence in my buyer. So here is a front shot of the item, just a simple, clean shot. This is another angle of the same item, and I'm gonna photograph all sides. So front and back are your most important angles, I suppose, on most clothing pieces. But then you'll notice I have the inside of the hat. Doesn't a buyer want to know if there's any staining or discoloration? And the tags. I could not tell you how many times I see buyers asking questions about content, the fabric content, the size, so on and so forth. And then also in an item like this, this is going to help authenticate this piece to be able to see the tags. So it's not enough to show one side of the tag, flip it over and show the other side. Again, just another view of that hat, and then I have another item there. So on clothing items, front, back, tags, size, fabric content. On vintage clothing, also look for tags along the side of the garment, and on a lot of designer tags, you're not always going to see the fabric content on the care tag, and in especially old items, you're not even going to see a care tag. They didn't introduce that until a certain year. So more on that in vintage dating video, maybe, if you guys want to see that. But anyway, yeah, front, back, and the care tags. Now, for a hat, that was sufficient, but for clothing, the buyer wants measurements, right? I will tell you that photographing the measurements right here in my shipping station, as well as my photography station, I have a fabric tape measure. Now, you can use a ruler or you can use a yardstick if you prefer, but I will lay a garment down. All right, guys, so if I'm doing measurements on a piece of clothing, which I always do, I am going to actually lay this item down and lay a tape measure out, because if you're not a reseller and if you're not a fashion measurer and I say waist 15 inches, you would be surprised how many people are going to think the waist is 15 inches. Now, as a reseller, you know that's obviously times 2 here, so it's actually a 30-inch waist. But This cuts down on any inconsistency in your measuring or any discrepancy against where the buyer thinks the item was measured and where you actually measure the item. So on a pair of jeans, I'm going to include that. I'm going to put the tape measure at the crotch here, and I'm going to measure the rise, especially on women's jeans. I don't think I really do this on men's jeans. Comment and let me know if you think this matters as much to men, but I can tell you to women, rise is a huge thing. And so you want to know, are these jeans high rise? Now, since these are a pair of shorts, I am also going to take this tape measure. I'm doing this with one hand here while I film for you guys, but I'm going to go actually again to the crotch, and I'm going to show this shot in my photos. And then there is a hip measurement that you can get just underneath the crotch there. Again, crotch seems to be an important spot in measuring, and you can measure across here and show your buyer what the hip measurement is. So I can just say that this is going to save you from erroneous returns. When you say it's a 15-inch waist and the buyer thought you meant 15 inches all the way around, I don't know, that would fit a toddler. This is going to save you from that. When the buyer says, I thought it was a 30-inch waist and it's not a 30-inch waist, you have photo evidence of this item being measured. It's not just random text in your description. You can prove that that item was actually a 30-inch waist. Along those same lines, I know you guys only ever have honest buyers, so let me just tell you about the one and only time I've ever had a dishonest buyer in my entire life, right? I had a pair of Banana Republic shoes. These are Sam Edelman, but I just brought them over here to show you. On the bottom, there was a size, and I snapped a picture of that size. I snapped a picture of the bottom of the shoe. You should always show the bottom of a pair of shoes because the buyer wants to know how much wear there is to the shoes, and that would encourage you to wash up those shoes or quit buying filthy, nasty shoes if you don't want to wash them. But the buyer had the nerve on Poshmark to open up a return request and say, these are not a size 8. I mean, just outright say, not a size 8. They're too small. And what she meant to say was, these are small for a size 8. I was able to show Poshmark that listing that clearly had the size right there, and the return was obviously denied to her, and the case was in my favor. Just want to show you guys real quickly while I have this vintage pair of Levi's out. If you are photographing Levi's, if they are a pair of special interest, then you might consider showing the back of the button here. I always show the back of the button, and I would have a bit of a hard time buying a pair of vintage Levi's without seeing that. Do you see where that says 581? And then I also show the back of this tag, and that says 581 there, and that is a key that these are, number one, made in America because they're under a 600 code, and then also they are, they're not counterfeit. So, and you can see here, made in the USA. All right, guys, another item you might think, exactly how do I photograph this, is a book. Seems simple enough, but there are a few things that you need to photograph inside books that you might not be considering. So when I photograph books, I lay it straight down there and I photograph the front of the book, the back of the book. I photograph the corners. I think a buyer wants to know the condition of the corners. So it would be a shot set up with an angle similar to this, where they can see if there's any wear and tear on the corners. If it's a textbook, say, you know, it's a little bit wavy when it lays down, it's a really thick book, I'm gonna take a picture of it like this to show how those pages lay. I really don't like my buyers to have any surprise. A book like this that has a dust jacket, I recently just sold a Stephen King book, and I took the dust jacket off and I included it beside it and photographed like this as well. My buyers aren't going to be surprised, all right? And then one last thing, even if you don't take any of those photos, will you please take a picture of the copyright inside the book? Take a picture of this page. Buyers want to know, and in certain books, it's gonna make all the difference in whether or not you get the price that you're asking for the book, because the buyer will be able to tell from that if it's a first edition, if it's a second edition, the copyright year of the book, when it was printed. Those things really matter. One last thing, if I'm including children's books, then I feel like a buyer would want to know, what do the illustrations in this book look like? So I might include a page like this, and maybe not even include the entire page so that I don't break any copyright laws, but maybe include just a snippet of the illustrations. Not every page, obviously, give them a reason to need to buy your book, but a buyer wants to know that. If you are photographing children's books, you also need to look inside and make sure someone didn't write their name inside the book. That's very, very common. And if the book has a page like this, make sure, again, no one's written their name in there. All right, guys, let's talk about how I list and photograph items that I do hang on my mannequin, or I at least hang on the mannequin rack. So you're gonna see a lot of the same things here. The lights are gonna be pulled far enough away, but then watch what happens to the wall behind the mannequin. If I pull these in a little bit closer, then some of those shadows will start to go away. Now she still has plenty of shadows on her, so we're gonna depend on that tablet to take a lot of these shadows away. So perhaps I should put some clothing on her for the purpose of this. She's looking pretty fly in this skirt, but you can tell she's a little bit slimmer than the item. So let me show you what I use for that. A simple binder clip, just like this. I'm gonna turn her around and I'm gonna clip that skirt up high on her waist and tight to her as it should be. I don't know about you, but I think that that fit looks a lot more flattering on her. If you are a purist, you could leave Becky just like this. And, you know, I guess there's nothing wrong with that. You are, by, you know, after all, trying to display the skirt and nothing else, but I just don't like the fact that she's topless. I hate to see this in people's listing photos. So let's get Becky a top that will complement the skirt and maybe even add some style details. All right, guys, this is why a lot of folks do not like to use a mannequin, because it can take a little bit longer, especially if you do have to add complementary pieces to the mannequin. But I'm just saying certain pieces don't look so good on a flat lay and really need to be hung up. So Becky is looking a lot better now. I could tuck this skirt in, or I could tie it back here. You know what? I think I'll just use one of those clips again. All right, I think Becky looks great. Some people could go so far as to start adding a vest or a purse or even jewelry, but honestly, I've seen some listings where you look at the cover photo and you're just not even sure exactly what item is for sale. So I think I'm just gonna leave her with a very basic top styled nicely with the skirt. Once again, let's bring up the tablet here. Let's ensure that our photo ratio is 1:1, and I gotta get closer, right? I have to be closer because I need to be in between Becky and the lights. Okay, I have that low angle again where I am just straight on. I'm going to click and I'm going to raise up the brightness once again and snap a photo. And let me show you without raising up the brightness, the difference in these two. Okay, so this is with the brightness as it was, and this is with raised up brightness. Let's just take a look at all the details you can see behind Becky here. You can see the line in the wall. You can see that the paint is missing. And on the one that I raised up the brightness, those details are not quite as obvious. So here is basic, and here is just tapping on the photo to brighten it up. Becky looks great. All right, guys, I'm actually in my kitchen, and in my kitchen and living room, I have this really cool faux brick wall that I created some focal interest to make it look kind of like stucco was coming off the wall. Maybe in your home you have a space like this, or maybe in your home you have a blank white wall with a picture hanging up. Let me show you how you can use this blank spot just by removing the photo. All right, so our praying gentleman has to come down. Now I have a nail on the wall. Recently, I bought these paintings at an auction. I have 2 of these, and I don't want to photograph this with a plain white background. I might maybe for the later photos, but I want to show how interesting and cool this can look hanging up on an interesting and cool wall. I recently did this with some photos that I took out of my son's nursery because he's not a baby anymore. He's a big boy. And I hung up his nursery decor like this and it sold pretty quickly. I have a few pieces left, but I love the cover photos using this method. You could absolutely bring your studio lights in for something like this. No problem at all. Oh my gosh, just out of habit, I just wiped the lens off on this tablet. All right guys, we had to go dark for this shot. I had to turn off the chandelier because it was glaring. So let me show you, even in really low light, how you can still utilize this method. All right, I think I got the shot, but I really had to go dark in this room. Something else you can do if you don't want to have to turn off all of the lights is to hold your white poster board up somewhere behind the camera so that it blocks out any of the light that is coming in from chandeliers or other light sources. All right, I want to show you guys one more thing for those of you that are under maybe budget or space restraints, cannot buy a mannequin or do not have space for a mannequin. Let me show you how to get that great background for your photos. If you have a special interest wall like this, the photo is gonna pop. It's gonna look awesome. If you have a gray wall, if you have a white wall, heck, if you have a black wall, I promise you, whatever color wall that you have, don't think you have to have a white space. Take a picture off your wall and hang that hanger right on the nail. If you cannot put nails in your wall for the apartment or space that you're in, use a command hook. I see people using command hooks all the time. Don't think you have to have a special hanger. I happen to think clear hangers work best and those come free a lot of the times with your purchase. But this item is gonna look great with this photo. Looks crisp. Almost looks like a white background back behind it. Guys, I hope that you will find lots of new and interesting ways, be it using natural lighting and setting your poster board concocted photo box up just in front of a window. I promise you, you can take really professional looking photos without a lot of professional equipment. Using your tablet, using your phone, using natural light. I want to see someone hook up 2 flashlights. Should that be a video? Should that be a photo challenge video coming up? You know, taking photos with a setup that costs less than $10. I will be that person to hook up 2 flashlights and see if you can utilize that. Because I am here to tell you, your photos can pop, they can be professional, but guys, no one's gonna buy your item if they don't see your item. And if it is in a dimly lit or dirty background, then no one's gonna click on that. You know why I click on items like that? If I am looking for, let's say I'm looking for a vintage troll. And lots of people have vintage trolls and the background is crisp and white and it looks professional. I can tell I am dealing with a professional seller, a professional reseller perhaps, or I might click on the one that looks like it was taken in their child's dirty room. You know why? Because they're not a professional and I'm likely to get a cheaper price. So if you want someone to click on your photos because they hope that it's a cheaper price, go ahead and do that. Take dimly lit photos because the first thing that that buyer will assume is that you are not a professional and they will therefore be getting a better price from you. It is, this may be a little controversial, but it is very similar to rejecting listing your home with an agent versus going for sell by owner. For sell by owners, buyers always think they can get them cheaper because they're not dealing with a professional. Guys, there's a wealth of things that you can gain from having crisp photos, and I hope that you can utilize the tips that I've given you in this video to start taking those today. God bless you. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe. Like this video if you like this video and share it with another reseller who may also be struggling with how to take professional and crisp photos. Thank you so much for watching again, and remember, treat your business like it's your business.